record on this. I can't believe that. I just did a whole 15-minute recording and totally forgot to turn my microphone on. Okay. Oh. So I'm all excited to talk about cymatics and how it relates to soul. And wow, let me start this all over again. Okay. So I suppose the first thing to say is what is cymatics? So if you haven't seen it, it's really cool. Go Google it. There are tons of really cool videos about cymatics that basically boil down to what? Oh, if you haven't already Googled cymatics, I highly recommend it. I will leave some links in the description. I forgot to say that last time too. Anyway, so cymatics basically boils down to this. So they took a metal plate and they put some sand on the metal plate and they put a speaker up underneath the metal plate and then they turned on sound, particular tones. And what's really cool is when you have the sound from the speaker jiggling the metal plate, which jiggles all of the sand and the stuff on top, then the sand starts to move around. And when you tune your tone to particular tones, the sand moves in patterns that are really beautiful and regular and look like flowers or look like pine cone patterns or sunflower patterns. They look like things in nature. And so I got mad excited, which you can see I'm very excited today. It's not the way I am every day, but here we are today, super hyper excited mode. So anyway, so the um, the patterns resemble things not only in nature but also in sacred geometry. And I love sacred geometry. If you've not seen the flower of life or the seed of life or Metatron's cube, where there's all kinds of sacred geometric patterns. But I got excited because I thought, oh, maybe cymatics is where they discovered these sacred patterns in the first place, and that their science at the time was doing things with these. Wow, this connects to so many things. We'll have to call this 6 degrees of soul because I'm going to jump all over. Okay, so um, wow, how did I start it out the last time about how cymatics connects to soul? So the sound, just the power of the sound alone, creates these even, beautiful, regular, natural shapes in the sand. And this is just the two-dimensional. This isn't even, just imagine what it would do three-dimensionally. Anyway, so the reason that it can do that is because the vibrational waves, basically the sand particles are settling into the grooves that represent the vibrational waves. So what we're looking at on the cymatic plate, we're looking at sound, that literally the pattern that shows up in the sand is the shape of the vibrational dynamics of the particular tone or frequency that's being played under the speaker. So if you tune to a different tonality, then the shape on the speaker will shift and then settle into a whole new pattern, into a whole new shape, which is just fascinating. And this connected with other stuff that I had studied about vibrational dynamics in science. For example, if you're studying sound vibrational dynamics or if you're studying fluid dynamics, wave patterns do really wild things. For example, if you have two waves, currents in water that converge, those converging waves can create a surprise phenomena called a rogue wave. And this actually topples boats in the ocean. And it took them years and years and years to understand why were these boats going down. And what happens is when a wave crests around an island or around a point, it reconverges in ways that the waves coming together multiply, and they create these hundredfold stronger vibrational dynamics in the water, and they call it a rogue wave. Tangent. Okay, so that's one tangent. Here's my second tangent. So in science, we actually don't have any proof that anything is solid. Yes, it's true that if you smack a table, it's going to hurt. But if you look at what things are made up of, we say they're made up of atoms. But if you look at what an atom is made up of, they'll say, well, there's spinning dynamics around a nucleus. And then we look at the nucleus and, well, that's just more spinning dynamics. And so we don't actually ever find anything that's solid per se. All we find are vibrational dynamics. So what does that mean, vibrational dynamics? So the way I understand this is, think of the ocean. So the ocean is an enormous body of water, but there's all kinds of, some of the areas in the water are hot, some of the water is cold, and some of it's, undulating more, and some of it's undulating less. There's all these dynamic behaviors going on in the ocean, this field of this body of water. And if you imagine a phenomena, like some of these waves come together and they do particular things, and suddenly we have this thing called a maelstrom or a whirlpool. Now, there's nothing about that whirlpool that makes it unique. It's still the ocean. It's still a body of water. The only thing that makes it unique, that makes it separate, that we give it a name, maelstrom, the only reason we do that is because it's a coherent pattern of spin. It's a coherent pattern of vibrational dynamic. It's moving in a particular way, and we say, oh, there's a lump over there of movement, and we call it a maelstrom. But when I think about the sand moving on the cymatic plate, and it's especially interesting when they do it with mud or they do it with starch, watered down starches, the vibrational dynamic moves the particles in ways that make it look alive, as if they're walking bodies of cymatic objects floating across the plate, walking across the plate. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's what we are. We are cymatic entities. We are vibrational dynamics in an ocean of vibrational dynamics. And we are complex vibrational dynamics. We're made up of so many atoms, and all of those atoms are complex spinning whirlpools of energetic vibrational dynamic. And we're made up of all of these atoms, and then the atoms come together into particles, and we're made up of all these different particles that make up organs, that make up sophisticated systems and currents and blood flow and all of this, but we're still just vibrational dynamics in an ocean of vibrational dynamic. And in the Bible, it says, God said, let there be light. So they're literally referring to vibrational dynamics, sound. And even light is a vibrational dynamic. Sound and light are the same phenomena. They're on the same electromagnetic spectrum. They're just different frequencies of vibrational dynamic. Everything is vibrational dynamics. So this gets exciting to me for a whole bunch of different reasons. One of the reasons this excites me is because it explains to me one way of looking at immortality and why we can have peace about where we go after we die, so to speak. What is reincarnation? What happens after death? Well, we know in science, energy doesn't cease, it just changes form. So for me, that gives me a lot of peace, because even if this particular whirlpool in this particular ocean doesn't look the same way, the energy dynamic persists. The vibrational dynamics exist. There's a story that I saw on the internet about a young boy who, I think he was 6 or 7 years old, and he had memories of having been a pilot, and he knew what his name was and he knew what his friends' names were. And then the family took him and the information that he knew was valid. And how is all of that possible? Well, if you pour a glass of water into an ocean, some of it will dissipate. But imagine if you could pour the glass of water with ink in it into the ocean, some of it'll dissipate, but then real quickly you scoop up some of that inky water again. Maybe that is part of what the reincarnation phenomena is that somehow this dynamic vortex of vibrational dynamic manages to make it from one glass of ocean water into another glass of ocean water. It tells me that even if this personality might not continue, this body might not continue, nonetheless, memory, the vibrational dynamic, is still in the ocean of vibrational currents. I mean, there's nothing that's ever going to make the ocean suddenly perfectly find stillness. That if we were sophisticated enough to be able to measure all of the different effects and wave patterns and where this wave bounced off the side of that island and then became this batch of waves, if we could track all of that information in the ocean could teach us a lot about history, about what's going to happen in the future. And when I think about the vibrational dynamics of the ocean of science, that all creation as we know it is just vibrational dynamics in formation. And information might be a human whirlpool in the ocean of vibrational dynamic that I call consciousness or source energy, but it's all actually interconnected. And then it connects to me like, oh, maybe that's how telepathy would work, or maybe that's the Akashic records, or maybe that's what did Jung call it? The collective unconscious. That these vibrational dynamics, these electromagnetic vibrational phenomena, even though they're not tangible per se, they're definitely measurable. I mean, there are not only the Heart Math Institute, but it's measurable. The heart gives off electromagnetic vibrational waves, and the brain gives off electromagnetic vibrational waves that are measurable. Even with modern equipment, 3 feet away from the body, you can measure someone's electromagnetic field. And I think with more sensitive equipment, I'm certain that you could measure that at a much further distance. So imagining all of this is an ocean of vibrational dynamics, the electromagnetic wave, and that each sophisticated interaction of waves is exactly the same thing as sound. Sound is nothing more than a complex combination of waveform dynamics, that all of this information is in formation or coming out of formation in the ocean of all of creation, all of the body of source energy. That this connects for me to what is soul, what is it in us that persists beyond death? What is it in us that is beyond the physicality, beyond the body mind? That I am not just this physical body. You are not just your physical body. We are actually very complex, sophisticated, multi-dimensional creatures. And if we understand cymatics, it's a way of approaching and understanding of our multi-dimensionality. Now, personally, even though I understand how this could be true scientifically, I don't always experience the truth of that, right? Like if it's true that we are all vibrational dynamic whirlpools of coherent energy dynamics spinning in the ocean of the all, then just like that whirlpool is still the ocean, then that means we are also totally in amnesia about the fact that we are the ocean. We are connected, inherently connected to the field of all that is. And I certainly am someone who, although I have peak experiences occasionally of really feeling that oneness, of feeling that interconnectedness, of feeling that extreme beyond the personality space, most of the time I'm not experiencing that. So I got really excited about trying different programs that are out there that help us to more vividly reconnect to that aspect of our beingness, the who am I. And the ancients, the mystic, would talk about non-duality, but when I listen to non-dualists, there's so much denial of the three-dimensional, four-dimensional experience that most non-dualists, I don't kind of relate to their language very well. But anyway, so I decided, okay, I'm going to start really diving into this. Like, how can each of us, every single person, no matter who you are, no matter who I am, how can every single one of us experience directly our connection with the all that is, with the absolute oneness of the entire ocean of source consciousness, vibrational dynamics, God, whatever you want to call that? How can we directly experience that? So I found a bunch of programs, and one of them was the Gateway Experience. And I'm not an affiliate with them, at least not yet. So I'm not, making any money. I'm not trying to promote them. You find your own, path to your own direct experiencing. But personally, I don't want to just operate based on faith or based on dogma or belief. I want to have the experience. For me, it's not real unless I'm experiencing it. So I decided to start the Gateway Project and the Gateway Experience, and it's fascinating. Anyway, I can't remember half of now what I had on the other video. I had covered like all these topics and I've completely forgotten them. Anyway, I hope this inspires you to check out Cymatics videos a little bit. If nothing else, the art in Cymatics is really, really beautiful. And it has led to all kinds of scientific breakthroughs. One of the things that came out of Cymatics was sonic levitation. And if you haven't seen any of the YouTube videos on sonic levitation, that's also really interesting. They were able to suspend ping pong balls like in the air just using sound, which is also really interesting because it connects to ancient stories of building technology where they would levitate stone blocks like the size of a ton or larger stone blocks. And in the stories, they talk about initiating the technology through people's voices, through singing tones, sonic levitation. I believe that the ancients may have known how to use sonic levitation to lift very heavy objects and navigate them. Anyway, it's interesting to see where our science will go as we start to understand more about the interconnected nature of vibrational dynamics, the infinite range of electromagnetic spectrum, and the scalar vibrational, there's all kinds of things going on at a non-tangible level that are in formation in the ocean of all that we are made up of, and that we are immersed in. And this connects to AI for me, about how they think that we can upload our minds and our memories to artificial intelligence. And I'm not sure it's quite that simple, because there are all kinds of electromagnetic dynamics that transcend, that include our neuron firing, but even our gut lining has electromagnetic properties, and the microbes that are in our guts contribute to dynamics that happen in our minds. And so I don't think that AI will ever replace human intelligence, because organic human intelligence is much more complex than the neuron firings in our brains. And I think that understanding cymatics more fully will help us understand more fully the nature of our spirituality and the nature of consciousness itself, beyond mechanical properties and into the more non-physical, more subtle phenomena of nature and physics, and even increase knowledge in quantum mechanics because of the vibrational dynamics in quantum mechanics. Wow, so many tangents. Anyway, I hope that this inspires you to maybe think about your own soul in a new way, maybe to relate to your own mortality with more hope and peace of mind, because ultimately we're not going anywhere. Yes, there may be a dreamer that is the whole of consciousness that sleeps and wakes, but ultimately vibrational dynamics continue, and even the sleeping and waking continues, and there's never any end to that. And so I hope that this gave you some at least giggles at the odd tangent making creature on the screen in front of you. If you want to see more of these, I would love to hear your feedback and support. You could please like or share or comment below. And if you want to support the channel in other ways, the best way to do that is to become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/LIFTnibbles. The link is also up there or over there or down there or in the description. One of these clickable areas here. And if you want to make a direct donation, there should be a button for that. Also, a PayPal donation button. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support and for listening. I intend to do more of these. They keep changing format, but I'll settle into a groove here any day now. Mwah! Have a wonderful whatever is next for you. Daytime, evening, afternoon, weekend. Big love. Until next.